Hey guys, welcome back to Maxplained, Dawn of War Unification. Today I have another faction guide for you, this time for the Tau Empire. The Tau Empire, don't quote me on the law and stuff, is a union, you could say, an allegiance of different aliens, mainly the Tau, the namesake, but also they have a lot of Kroots and Krootoks, which seem to share a origin, and but they also have like Vespids, and they also sometimes get some humans to fight for them, so they have a little diverse lineup. They are kind of comparable if you played the Halo series to the Covenant, where they have also like these different aliens under the Covenant, like the alliance of different species. They have a caste system, a caste, like the earth caste is for building and stuff. Then you have the fire caste, which is the main fighting force, and then you have the air caste, which is like the prophets and such. Also kind of comparable to Halo series, you could say. In terms of playstyle, some or how should I say, a lot of people, many people struggle with Tau because they are very special in many ways. They have like very specialized units that are really good at one thing and really bad at everything else. For example, you have the Vespids that are really mobile, very good harassment unit, but for everything else, like fighting, prolonged fighting or mid-range, they are like trash. And then you have the Fire Warriors, for example, which excel at ranged combat, but can't do jack in melee combat. They can't even fire on the move, for example. And on the other side, you have Kroots that are really good at melee, but against something that would outshoot them, they die really quickly. So you have like very special things, like also the stealth suits, for example, are really good at capping, at reconnaissance, but cannot fight really until tier 2, for example, where they turn into another unit role, you could say. So very distinct roles. But the problem in Dawn of War, of course, you cannot have all the units at once. That is mostly true for Tau, or how should I say, especially true for Tau as well. So the build you go for depends very much on the matchup you are fighting against, what units you are expecting the enemy to build. So you need to even think more about your autonomy, about your opponent than you would normally do in other factions. For example, Space Marines, you could go Space Marines that are never really bad choice to go for some Space Marines, you know. But for Tau, going a lot of Fire Warriors can be bad in the sense that the enemy will overwhelm you with melee forces and stuff. So yeah, that's about it for the pre-talk. We will now jump as usual into the saved game, where we will go through everything in detail. And here we are in the saved game, where we have, as usual, a good overview of everything. But before we start with the units and buildings, we will talk about the resources and unit caps. Resources, as you see, are the standard requisition and power. The gain edge, or how you gain them, is also pretty standard, like enlisting points, strategic points, plasma generators. One special thing about it for Tau is that you can get the second tier of the resource upgrades. The first one you always get in tier 2. The second one you get also in tier 2, and even earlier than, for example, Elder, which also get them in tier 2, but they get them in tier 2.5 with their support portal. For Tau, you can get immediately, or you can immediately start the second resource upgrade once you finish the first one in tier 2. So you can get, if you fight prolonged tier 2, defensive style, whatever, you can get a really big economy boom in tier 2 going, if you so desire, if you can hold the ground for long enough to excel then in the late game. For the unit caps, it's also a bit special. You start off with the standard 10 squad cap and 0 support cap or vehicle cap, get up to the 2020, which is also pretty standard, but how you increase it is interesting, because there's no research, there's no like particular building that you build that increases the support cap. It's all tied to your tech. So your tier 2 building, the Path of Enlightenment, gives you +5 squad cap, +6 vehicle cap. Then your vehicle beacon gives you +2 vehicle cap as well, which is more or less standard. And then in tier 3 you can decide if you go for Mont Car or Carrion command post. A little more details later on. You get for one of these, you get +5, +6 as well. Then you get later on the Coalition Center, which is a tier 3.5 building you could think of, gives you another 6 vehicle cap, and then your Titan production building, your Advanced Technology Beacon, gives you another +4 vehicle cap. So this means you cannot mass to absolute high hell in tier 1, which in turn means, for example, that you can be rushed by or can be outmassed in tier 1. For example, a SM or Imperial Fist player going a hell of a lot of Space Marines just running at you. You can only have let's say 4 squads, because you have Cappers as well, and Commander. So that's your tier 1. You cannot go more. So that's an issue on itself. Many Tau players can struggle with. But okay, that's for the unit caps and stuff. We will now talk about buildings. The buildings, you have your HQ. Your HQ is just your HQ. You don't tech with it. You have your builder, your capper, then you have your Vespits, which is in harassment unit, and in tier 2 you get in a Piranha, which is a very fast but fragile skimmer, very useful. The first line of upgrades you get here as well. The most important upgrade you want to get always early is the jump pack upgrade, which gives you jump ability on your stealth suits and your Tau commanders, very important upgrade. Then you have your barracks where all your infantry is at, and in tier 2 you can build either the crew shaping center, which gives you some crews and crew tox variants, and your vehicle beacon, which gives you all your vehicles. Once you get tier 3, you can then build the Coalition Center, which most importantly holds your Ethereal. We will talk about later. Then we have this little Easter egg unit we will talk about later, which is, oh my god, is she amazing. And then you have your big battle suits here. These are infantry, as you can see. These are, but you could compare them to like tanks in effectiveness. And then you build your Titan building, where you get your 2 Titans and also this super heavy flying unit. In terms of tech and research, you have your Path of Enlightenment, which has these 6 researches, which 2 of them are locked behind the Kauyon. Then you have to choose between Mont Ka and Kauyon command post. I will talk about which units are available for what path when we go over the units. What would be the better, or what would be the, how should I say, advantages of one and disadvantages. I will go through in the tech tree probably, because there we have the whole overview what units you can get and what not. Yeah, you have standard plasma generators. In terms of defense, normally Tau could not build any turrets. That's why they got really good listening posts. That LP3 has this big old rail gun, which is good against everything. The tech range is also quite good, but with the version 6.9 you can now enable turrets. You have drone sentry turrets, which are basically plasma firer, really good against infantry. And then you could decide if you go for dual plasma rifles in tier 2, which look at the price, it's really expensive. Effective against all targets, basically like an autocannon more or less. And then you have the dual missile pods, which have very long range but are only good against vehicles. It states it's always hitting the target, because it's like the smart missiles. The Tau have these smart missiles. They look a little different, but they seem to home. You can see here, smart missile pods is a thing that you will find often here as we go through the units. Building wise, this should be it. There are 2 survival only buildings. I have a survival save game prepared after this one, where we will look through some of the survival only units and whatnot. Okay, but this is the buildings. Just note that your HQ is just the HQ. Everything else tech based is mostly buildings, like the Path of Enlightenment and the command coast, and then there's only 1 research, like the teaching of Monkar, teaching of Kauyon for your tier 4. So it is for the most part building based. So you can lose your tech if you lose your tech buildings. That is something you want to keep in mind when you go, for example, for base trade. Then base trading is not very favorable if your tech is in buildings. Okay, now to the units. We will start as the usual with the builder and then the commander units. We have the Earthcast builder, which is what it says. It's a builder. It can build, it can repair. That's it. Has no melee or ranged weaponry at all. Commander-wise, you can see here you have quite the range. In early game you only have your Tau Commander. Important for the Tau Commander is that if you enable Hero War Gear, he is mostly weaker than if you have it not enabled for the most part of the game. So Hero War Gear in general is not used for PvP, so even less so for Tau. The Tau Commander can use snare traps, which is really nice. They infiltrate after a while, and if the enemy walks in, even vehicles, I think, get snared. Snared not only reduces their movement speed, but also increases the damage they take, which is really, really strong. It has target acquired, which is a single target spell, similar to or comparable to the Elder Mind War. You can actually target, I think, an actual model. The damage isn't the greatest, but can be good for sniping enemy builders, for example, or commanders, single entity units. Cooldown is relatively high. If you have Hero War Gear enabled, you can get Shield Drone, which gives you this shield thing here, which decreases damage from ranged attacks, yes. And you have this Marker Drone, which increases ranged accuracy. Looking closer at the weaponry, and he can also jump, either with the jetpacks or from the War Gear or from the jetpacks from the HQ. Really versatile. He starts with a very long-ranged plasma rifle thingy, but you can add an additional flamer, and you can add a shorter-ranged plasma thingy in tier 2, and then in tier 3 you can add this, increase it again in effectiveness for another plasma thingy that has a longer range as well. So he, I would recommend, as the noob Tau player that I am, skip the tier 2 ranged weapon and get both in tier 3, for example. And you can add also these smart missile pods at the back, which are really, really useful. They are enabled as soon as you hit tier 2 and are a no-brainer to get for your Tau Commander in tier 2. I will kill him now and build another unit here, and I will tell you later why I do this. Other commander units you have access to is your Ethereal. We will talk about the Coyote stuff later. It's your Ethereal. The Ethereal is very important, or very good, in the sense that you have immediately use. He inspires all units on the field, like on the whole battlefield. You see this little shimmering here. I'm not really completely certain what this is, probably morale buff and whatnot. But if it dies, all enemies get morale broken and get some health damage. We will use it in a second. But he has also very useful abilities. He can summon an honor guard bodyguard. We will talk about it in the units later on, but it's immediately if you build them, you click it because the bodyguards are so good. Then you have a bombardment, which some people call overpowered, because you see the actually cast point, like the cast delay is really low and the damage isn't low for what it does, so it's really strong. And then you have this holographic projection, which can do a holograph of any unit you have. Even for the strongest unit you can get a holograph. And yeah, it also works on squads, and I'm not sure even on vehicles, I think. Not advantage, but real to the enemy. Yeah, which is interesting, because if you have like a Libra clone, you can do a very shenanigans. Libra, Harbinger of the Greater Good, is, as I said, a Easter egg unit, part of the Tau Psi Corps victory condition, which has 3 units in it. It has Libra, it has, I learned it has the Borillo for the Space Marines, and it has the Guessa later on as well. So she is a beast. She is enabled in the tier 2 Titan research, so it's really, really late in the game. But I just want to show you the ground target ability. Look at this destruction that she does. So she is quite a beast, really fast, can jump, and has these 2 active abilities, which gives a different state. You have Psionic Fury, which increases attack power, becomes more reckless, so it's like increased damage dealt, but also increased damage taken. And then you have the Psionic Blast, unleashes a wave of devastating psychic energy, knocks down and causes spiritual damage to nearby enemies. Large area of effect, long recharge. So you have like this AoE. Maybe we want to go a little out of the way. Boom. It does also damage to herself, you see. So, and if you kill the Ethereal, you will see at the units here that the morale is broken, and they also took quite a lot of hefty damage, which seems to be randomized on each model, as you see. So you want to keep your Ethereal alive at all costs. Last one I always forgot because it's more of a Carrion unit as well. It's a Crude Shaper. It's a commander you can attach, the only commander you can attach actually, which is only attachable to Crude and Crude Hounds, which increases the effectiveness of them, increasing the movement speed and attack speed, I think. Maybe some health shenanigans. He, by itself, the Crudes are mainly used in melee, and he can be really good in melee as well. But don't underestimate his rifle he has. The rifle isn't that bad either. So you can get the, I think limited 3 or 4 Crude Shapers and use them as a little small goon squad, for example. Now we will flip over so we can see the Carrion units you have, or not only Carrion. I think Commander Lacoma is available for both sides. She shares a shared cap with the commander, that's why I put her in the second player. She has a stealth suit commander, so she is stealth. She has MP grenades. Fusion blaster is an anti-vehicle gun, and the iron cannon is more like very effective against armor targets, less effective against troops. So it's like a better variant with long range. Yeah, long range, medium range. So that's her. Maybe also detecting. I have it on the Techtrees. So she's an more of a stealthy choice, you could say. And then you have this little awesome command squad here of Die Hawk's crew. They are like a weird bunch, you could say. He himself is good in melee and ranged, and then you have these two fellows of him. He has this thermal detonator, which sabotages a structure, giving basically stuns the structure and does some damage. Really interesting. Has very short range, so he wants to go really close. And then you have these two big dudes. You have like this guy with 4 arms. He has also 4 weapons with from different origins on the back. And yeah, he's just a menace. Big short armor. No, he just put it up a bit. Melee specialist, durable. Yeah, it's basically a beast in combat. And then you have here Chasui. Guesa is or Guewesa are the human people who are fighting for the greater good, and she got it is a Chasui, which are the sergeants you could think of. She has a range attack and also gets the MP grenade, and has a really long range. So if you want to go for a range command, she is the way to go. You can go both, of course, but I would recommend that you either get one or the other, because they excel in very different roles. Like putting the woman here in melee will most of the time let her be killed, so waste of resources in that sense. Okay, that's the commanders. Now we will jump over to the infantry. The infantry is versatile in many ways. In tier 1 you have access to the stealth suits, which is your first primary unit to cap. The damage itself is like, look at the values don't lie this time, it's like non-existent. That's why most people, or I recommend if you're going for capping and decapping shenanigans, put them on ceasefire so the enemy does not know you're there. You will not deal any damage anyway. There's an upgrade in tier 1, I think it's here, it's like stealth suit burst cannon enhancement, lets them deal at least some damage in tier 1. But the real big role comes on in tier 2, where they get this Chasvre leader, which comes with a fusion blaster, and they can get 3 fusion blasters as well as MP grenades from this leader. Makes them a very mobile anti-vehicle or harassment unit, which is really nice to have a infiltrated anti-vehicle unit or harassment unit that can jump. So you can jump into the enemy base, for example, in between the listening posts where there's no detection, and kill all the generators, for example, which is a prime use for stealth suits. The other units you have available in tier 1 is the Fire Warriors. The Fire Warriors are expensive, have a long range and deal good damage, but as I said earlier, are pathetic in melee and need to set up. The setup time itself isn't like the longest, but it is existent, so they cannot fire on the move. They are okay-ish in tier 1 to hold the line, but they become really good in tier 2. you can get 2 leaders. One's the Chassis, which is the Sergeant, which gives them the photon grenade, or a shield drone, which gives them the energy shield. In generally, I would say you can get 1 each or 2 on 1. So I would go always get 2 Fire Warrior Chassis. Also, a good way to use Fire Warriors in tier 1 is get more squads and not more models. The models cost 70 requisition, and a new squad of 3 models costs 210 requisition. So you don't save money for reinforcing. You just make it worse because you have 1 squad that can be tied down by 1 enemy melee team. So always build new Fire Warriors teams as long as you have squad cap for it before reinforcing. In general, I would highly recommend not to reinforce the Fire Warrior teams in tier 1 because they are so expensive, but rather get a quicker tier 2 where Tau wants to be in tier 2 and get 2 Chassis for each squad. So you have like 3 Fire Warriors and then 2 Chassis, and they wreak havoc. There's an upgrade in tier 2 which is mandatory. It is called Advanced Pulse Rifles, which increases the range and damage of Fire Warriors and Stealth Suits, but most importantly for the Fire Warriors, and they become absolute monsters. So yeah, that's my tips for them. The last tier 1 unit you have access to are the Crude Carnivore Squad, which I said is a melee squad. They aren't like super tough or super DPS wise, but they are really agile, and they have this Cannibalize, which as the name states, they can eat friend or foe and get these stacks up. The stacks are kept at 300, but you can see the maximum health goes up really quickly. So there are openers where you get 2 Crudes, and as the fight goes on, you have 1 Crude like constantly eating to increase the squad. They also share their meals, you could say. So any new Crude you build will get these stacks as well. So that's Crudes, really useful units by themselves. In tier 2 you get new units of... one last tier 1 unit is the Westpit String Strain. I said it in the beginning of the video, these are harassment units. They do not like prolonged fighting because yeah, they don't deal a lot of damage against like regular infantry like guardsmen and stuff. They can deal with them, but they don't take a lot of damage. They have 3 abilities. They can jump, which is a good jump. As you can see here, the cooldown, they get like almost 3 jumps. They get 3 jumps, and the range for the jumps is also longer than the standard one because they have these little wings. And then have 2 abilities. One's the Sonic Burst, which is mainly used to get enemy melee units away from them, so they can attack buildings for a few seconds later. And then you have this destabilization ability, which is a target ability on enemy buildings, only buildings, no vehicles, right? Building armor, yeah. So they it deals damage to buildings over a short amount of time, but also it increases the damage the building takes from all sources. So you can use that, and then you can double down, not only killing the building with Westpit Strains, but also if you have a Fire Warrior or whatever unit in the vicinity, focus down the building. The increased building damage is for all sources. But now to tier 2. Tier 2 is very interesting as you get the most important unit in tier 2, which is the Pathfinders, which I forgot to reinforce here. They by itself have not the biggest range. So in vanilla it was the problem that if you A-click, they would get the front and would get killed. So it is nice to have now this Pathfinder Chassis, which is a sniper rifle dude. And you have this Pulse Acceleration drone, which increases the range of the units. And then you have the Craft Inhibitor drone, which is a drone that keeps enemies away from them from melee range, which I would not use because they are really fast. They can detect, and yeah, the biggest thing they have going for is the big sight range as well. Fire Warriors can not see as far as they can shoot, so you want to have something to spot for them, which is Pathfinder's jobs. And they have this activated ability, Mark a Squad. It can not only mark squad but also vehicles, and they take additional damage from our sources. So they go in, they mark, they go a little out, and then let the ranged superiority units kill all. In tier 2 you have also access to a brand new squad, you could say, the Fire Warrior Preachers. The Fire Warrior Preachers are mid-ranged Okay, they have long range because they the Chasserie Breacher has like a long ranged weapon, but in general the shotguns, or like, yeah, the shotguns have range like this, for example, for the most part. And they have also shield drones and fire warrior. Chasserie, as I said, you can get 3, I think, or 2 each, and 3 in total. These are a squad that benefit more from the shield drone because they are more on the face of the enemy. Shield drone gives them access to the inner shield, but the Chasserie leader isn't to turn down easily either, because he gives you access to photon grenades, which is more or less your standard frag grenades, and EMP grenades as well. EMP grenades do stun a vehicle for a very short amount of time, like the stun is only like 1 second or 2 seconds, but yeah, it's good to catch up on a vehicle, for example. And these, as for most, they get like more charges of energy shield and more charges of the grenades, the more leader units you have. Okay, that's tier 2. And tier 3, with the Ethereal, you get his bodyguards, and the bodyguards are basically Chasserie, but the range is just absolutely bonkers. And just to put it in perspective, I have prepared a little range overview thingy here. Where's the last one? Didn't I have one more? Yeah, I want to skip for a second, but this is like the standard fire warrior range. And then if you skip over, these have the upgrade. So if you upgrade the range, you get like up to this point. And then look at the Chasserie. They have like double the range of the standard one, and even 50% more range than the upgraded fire warrior. So the range on these bodyguards, it's just insane. They can on some maps just fire from one base to the other, it feels like. So always get them as soon as you have the Ethereal, as I said earlier. The last infantry units you have access to are the Crude Hounds pack. The Crude Hounds is a Kauyon only tier 3 unit. These are basically, you can think of them like Crudes on steroids, which is absolutely the right description. They cannot how should I say, eat anything, but they are strong on their own right. They have like 4.8k stuff. They aren't the fastest, but you won't always have a... Can I build this quickly here? If you have like a Crude Shaper, they become like really deadly, because they are becoming so fast. Look at them go, the Hounds. And they are tanky and dealing a lot of damage, so really good melee superiority unit. And then you have the Guevesa auxiliaries, like a support team of guardsmen, you could say, with Tau gear, because it's superior. They have a mark ability, and they have EMP grenades. I think the mark ability comes from their Chasserie, and the EMP grenade they have on their own. Other than that, they have really long range, which is mostly because of the Chasserie, I think, and are really good on their own. Only available if you enable the Tau Psycorps victory condition. Okay, that's more or less the standard infantry. There's more infantry units, the battle suits, and we have the let's say smaller battle suits and the bigger battle suits. The battle suits on this, and how should I say, they are all infantry vehicle cap, and apart from the tier 1 and tier 2 Titan. The first one you have access to is the broadside battle suit, which is a anti-vehicle, anti-aircraft unit. While on the move, it fires with the smart missile pods, but can entrench, boom, boom, and then use the dual railguns at the top, which are the main killer unit. Really slow, range is not very good, it's good. So very good at defense or sieging down. On mobile, these missiles do AoE damage, the railguns do not, so you can argue for something like Tyranids or Imperial Guard, you could stick it entrenched, but other than that, entrenched mode, it's the superior one. And then we have the Crisis Battle Suit Squad, which is Montcar exclusive, so tier 3. Normally they were only one squad and regenerated really slow, so now there are like 3 entities, and all can get up to 2 different weapons, missile pods for anti-vehicle, flamer for anti-morale and anti-infantry, and they can get now a repair drone, which is basically a Earthcast drone that gives them health regeneration. You could think of it being an apothecary to the squad. they can jump as well. And then tier 3.5, you have access to 4 different big battle suits. Only one is available for both. How should I say, tech path, which is the Ghost Keel Stealth Battle Suit, which is available for both paths, but they can get different upgrades like weapons and these drones that are around, which only are available if you go Mont Car, and these 3 battle suits are only available at Mont Car at all. You can get up to 2 each. They count to your relic unit count, so the Crotox, which we will talk later on, or the Great Narlock, I think it's called, counts into the shared cap of 2. So we have these Ghost Kneel Battlesuit, which can toggle infiltration whenever it wants. So weapon system or disabled, yeah. So if it's in stealth, it cannot fire, and you can get 2 drones more or less attached to it. They are more add-ons, you could think. They can use target acquired and this energy shield. They do exactly what you think, and you can jump. You have also some weapon options for the left and right arm. Yeah, for the most part it starts with interesting weaponry. I'm not really a big expert on Tau weaponry, so I would always recommend to read these descriptions to see what they go. I kind of know now the Imperial weaponry, what they're good at, what they're bad at, but for Tau it's so special I have to apologize that I do not know it. Very good. Then you have these Hvarna battlesuit, which can get either a Nova reactor, which gives them overcharge, which makes them slower but deal more damage, or these 2 drones. The shield drone gives them a permanent damage resistance buff, and then you have the marker drone, which gives them the target acquired ability. And also I think some of them, these marker drones, increase the general DPS of the squad as well. Cannot jump, but ground target. So it's more or less an artillery stealth suit, you can think, really slow on their feet. Then you have the Riptide Battlesuit, which is interesting, has interesting weaponry, as you can see here. Really tanky one, can get smart missile systems or ion accelerators. Has the overcharge burst cannon available, so which increases the damage, but takes the unit takes damage, which is similar if you research this Nova Reactor Core Overcharge technology. It's the same ability. It takes damage but increased damage, and I think it slows also the unit down. And you have these shield reactors on/off, which increases the defense, but it also, the weapon accuracy is lowered, so it does not hit as good, which is like very nice. And then the well, let's see if it makes the unit slower. No, it does not make it slower, but it you see the damage it takes is real. It can also jump and has like these 2 weapon options. And then last but not least, you have the Yuvara Battlesuit, which has also the overcharge stuff. I think you can research it, or it has it by default, and you can get 2 drones like this shield drone and this marker drone for similar effects. Can jump, very mobile, good battlesuit as well. Yeah, as we are now here, we'll just talk about the Titans, because they're also battlesuits in a sense, but they count as vehicles. You have the Storm Rage battlesuit, which has like a million different missiles, if I'm see it correctly here. So really good missile barrage, but can also entrench to fire this really big ass railgun at the bottom, at the back, which is just... Does it shoot here? Can you please fire? Maybe it's not the one that can be fired with ground target, but really big and big range, as you can see here on both modes. And then you have the tier 2 Titan, which is absolutely bonkers. It's the name's Tau Una Supremacy Armor, which has no mode in which it entrenches, but I just want to point out, like, look at this big old plasma shots. It's just amazing. It has these plasma guns at the side and these plasma things at the top. The top have really big recharge rate. You can see here, really nice. And then you have this charge, which is basically the things that makes the units unstoppable. They go a little bit faster and knock down units around. And I see the cooldown has been increased by quite a lot, which was one of my recommendations for 6.9. Okay, these are your battle suits. We will now jump over to the vehicles. The second to last unit class you could think of. You have available immediately in tier 2 the Piranha, which is a fast skimmer, costs I think 40 requisition, 60 power, which is relatively cheap, but it has only 600 health, is vehicle light, and the damage is very good against infantry, can get fusion blasters to get some sort of anti-vehicle, anti-building capabilities as well. They have a health regeneration, which is a little bit too much, I think, so they can sustain longer than they, in my mind, should do. Yeah, they look like really powerful, but they die really quickly as well. And then in tier 2 you have quite a lot of different vehicle units. You have like this drone squad, which is really good against infantry, has very short range, but deals, no, it says infantry, it actually deals good damage against everything, including big demons, and if they die they explode for big damage, like suicide drones you could think of, and doing big damage against all targets as well. So the infantry isn't right, they do good damage against everything. Then you have their troop carrier, the Devilfish troop carrier, the transport, is also a skimmer, cannot jump however, but is infiltrated and does okay damage against infantry, and having a infiltrated transport, even relic saw, this might be overpowered, and so that's why it's limited to 3 units. Also tier 2 available is the Drone Harbinger. The Drone Harbinger, that reminds me that I forgot 1 unit in the infantry, but we'll see later, can get these drones out. 35 power each, so this is not cheap, and I think they are also something that explodes on death. I think, I'm not sure, because these surely do explode on death. You can also set an overwatch so you get the drones at all time, but you drain a lot of power doing so. So these are mainly used for getting a drone shield in between you and your fighting force for a lot of power. And before I forget it, we have one unit that I completely forgot. This drone controller here, which is also a infantry unit. You more or less can think of it as a commander, more or less, because it's also a limited to 1. It can launch sniper drones. Sniper drones have really long range and can snipe the enemy, so he has no real damage on his own, and he can also command the drones to stealth, which decreases the drones lower accuracy, but are infiltrated. So this is true for all drones he produces. You can toggle it whenever you want. So really nice unit in the sense as well. They can move quite far before they die, but are really fragile. So you have sniper drones, and you have like more or less short range drones for the Drone Harbinger. The last tier 2 unit you have access is the Skyrail missile ship, which is good against infantry. It looks like an artillery unit, but actually the range isn't the greatest for an artillery unit. Actually the fire warriors have a bigger range than that. But the most important thing is the missile barrage, which I'm not sure if it's in tier 2. I think it's tier 2, yeah. Does quite a good AoE and does not cost any resources to get. So this is the reason why you get the missile gunship, not for their standard firing, which is okay-ish, but for the missile barrage, which is an AoE, big disruption, big damage thingy. In tier 3, I think you can get the Commander Long Strike gunship if you're going Mount Ka, which is a replacement for your commander, so it shares the limited cap with your Tau commander and your Commander Lacoma. It is a vehicle, a long strike vehicle, as you can see here, can actually jump. Okay, I didn't forgot about it, and has this overcharge ability as well, which also makes it slower. It seems damages makes it slow, but it deals more damage. In tier 4, you have access to 2, let's say, heavy tanks. You could say it's the Hammerhead. Hammerhead has this big old rail gun at the front, at the back, but can be exchanged by twin-linked heavy burst cannons, fusion cannons, or plasma cannons. And then you have the Swordfish heavy gunship, which is also tier 4, and also requires a relic. Has a twin-linked railgun at the back. Has a little more HP, and yeah, has more railgun but less spinny gun. You could think of, yeah. And the Commander Long Strike is really, really powerful on its own as well, because it is a really tanky unit, and I think it's tier 3, but I could be wrong, it could be tier 4 as well. Before we jump over to the demonic or the monstrous units, we will go over the aircraft. You have the Barracuda, which is the vanilla unit, really fast, really good at damaging units, has a big, how should I say, big DPS, but low health, medium range. And with the one thing I forgot here about the drones, they do get like, they go too far away from the drone caller, is their limit. And if they go too far from the drone caller, they get like disabled, you could say. So if I move them closer, the drone caller would... Okay, the one guy died now. If I go closer, this one unit should go into firing mode again. I think. Yeah, now it's in firing mode, so you have a maximum range it can go. Just because I saw it. So the Barracuda, back to it, is your anti-everything aircraft vehicle, very fast but very fragile, very expensive as well, limited to 5, I think. Then you have in tier 3, for Mount Car, you get this Sun Shark Bomber, which does okay damage on its own, but has this pulse bomb, which does what it says, it makes a bomb, good against infantry, it says, are less damaged by the detonation. Yeah, armored vehicles and buildings are much less damaged, so it's more an anti-infantry bomb. Does not cost you resources, but you need to get it closer than it would otherwise be able to fire. And then you have this absolute monster unit, like this Tiger Shark AX10, which is a super heavy flyer, really late, like it's tier 4, and needs a critical location, has 2 twin ray guns, these spinny guns, and also like there are smart missile pods on the bottom, so it does really pack a punch. And lastly, it has this Seeker missile barrage, which costs you power because it's targeted actually. Okay, you need to target enemy troops, vehicles, or aircraft, so you can target anything and does like a big old barrage on that spot. Really, really nice. I really enjoy just having a big old flyer on the field and yeah, let the greater good rain at the enemy, you could say. So lastly, we will talk now about the demonic / monstrous units. The Gnorlock, these are all... No, the greater Gnorlock is also available for Mount Car, but it cannot get these weapons. It has available 2 weapons on it. But we first talk about the Gnorlocks. These are tier 3, I think, as well. These are Gnorlock Riders. They have range and melee capabilities, but are mostly used in melee. Really fast, really expensive, but very durable. Also in tier 3, you have access to the Crow Tox, which is absolute monster in terms of HP. Just look at it, and I got the HP upgrade, so that's why it's even more. Really durable. Has a ranged attack, but don't take these numbers for serious. It has a better melee use, so if you can go with it to melee, you should. And then lastly, you have the Crow Tox, Greater Gnorlock, where I wanted to show you the difference in HP. This is the standard HP of 8,000. It doesn't do anything special, has melee attacks, and that it tanks stuff. But if you have to upgrade, it goes close to 11,000 HP. And if you go for Carrion, it's an Carrion only upgrade. And if you go Carrion, you can also either get this little ballista or this dual crude gun on the back, which is really nice. So it gets a ranged capability after all. Whew! Is this all units I wanted to talk about? A lot of jumping units, as you saw. Oof, yeah, but this is the standard, quote-unquote standard units. We will now jump over to a safe game of a survival game I played, where I can show you some of the PvE only units. There are more, of course, in the campaign, but the coolest, you could say, units you get in survival. So see you in a second. Okay, here we are in the survival safe game I told you about. First of all, it has 2 new buildings. It has the Tau Minefield, which actually makes me think of one building set I forgot, which are, if you enabled hazard booby traps, which nobody really does. You have some interesting turrets on the map, but yeah, let's forget about it. And then you have this arc heavy turret, which looks like a Mont Car shrine, but like having big old guns and whatnot. Extremely effective against infantry and heavy infantry, best for defending critical structures like HQs. The range isn't the greatest, which is the biggest downside on it, but other than that, it's like a real good defensive turret. Some of the reinforcements you get, there's some survival going on, that's why my camera is a little tilting, is a very special Pathfinder squad, which do not get the chassis, but it has like this little, how should I say, it is this chassis, not the same as in in skirmish, and has the ability to get a rail rifle or an iron rifle on the squad, so get some different weapon options for them, which is really nice. Then you get these piranha and how should I say, a different piranha, and buffed up piranha you could think of, just like the two ray guns themselves show why. And then you has this marker light, which lights up enemy units, which is like mark target, similar to mark squad here, like the similar, and can jump. Really, really good. You get 2 of them in I think tier 3. And you have then also this crisis suit, which is a custom crisis suit. You see it looks very different and has more health, more damage, can get also plasma rifles instead of flamers and missile pods, so really nice to have, and can actually get both. Wow, didn't know that. And then you have this custom veteran broadside battle suit, which is has like the missiles on top and ray gun at the bottom, and is generally more buffed than your standard crisis suit. And then last but not least, you have the Commander Shadow Sun, which is your tier 4 reinforcement if you play on harder, or what was the last one? Harder or insane. And she's more or less like your commander. She also has snare trap, has target acquired, and can get drones, which gives her marked squad and energy shield. You can also jump, and yeah, she's just in general really good unit. She's like your Tau commander, but better in every single way you can think of. Really, really nice model as well. Look at the cool hair she has there. So really nice to have her on the battlefield. There are more campaign exclusive units that have some slight nuances to them. I will tell you about them in the Techtrees. And speaking of the Techtrees, we will now jump over to them. And here we are on the Techtree document. One thing before we start to look at the upgrades and whatnot, I have a color code red. Everything that is red is limited to Carrion. Everything that is blue, surrounded blue lines, is limited to Mont Car, just so you know. And as usual, I will go through the upgrades, then the tier strengths, and then maybe also the campaign exclusive units. First upgrades, in HQ you get the immediately available jetpack upgrade you immediately want to get after you get like your first 2 or 3 stealth suits to cap, so the stealth suits can then be even more effective at capping because they can jump. This upgrade is the increased damage for your stealth suits, which is also really nice if you want to have a stealth suit opener, or in tier 2 if you want to use them as anti-vehicle units and stuff. Not if you start to use stealth suits more than just for capping, you want to have this upgrade as well. And that's all the upgrades you can get. This one is a campaign only unit, which is similar to the Piranha I have showed you in survival. So it's a very good unit by itself, has the mark target ability, is limited to 1, but can also cap. So really good campaign unit. Get it as soon as you can because it's really, really good. Other upgrades are available in the Path of Enlightenment here. These are the first 4. This is the go-to upgrade you want to always have, is the pulse thingy, which increases the range and damage of stealth suits and fire warriors. So you want to give it as ASAP basically. This one is a upgrade that increases the damage of your stealth suits even more. So if you want to play stealth suits, use this upgrade. This is the upgrade that gives you access to the Skyray missile gunship active ability, which is also nice. And this thing here gives you a feral leap ability for your Croods and Croot Hounds. So if you play Croods and Croot Hounds, get this upgrade. In general, the upgrades aren't like, there aren't a lot of upgrades, but they increase the effectiveness of the units. They are meant to be very much, so you want to get them as soon as you can if you go for this unit type. And then the main reason why Kauyon in vanilla was the superior choice always was these two upgrades. You have increased metallurgy, English words are sometimes hard, advanced metallurgy. Sorry if I butcher this word. This basically increases the health of every unit you can think of. Increases the health of fire warriors. I think Croods maybe not, but like Crotox, Kraton Orlogs, all the different tanks you have available to you. Really, really awesome upgrade. Also changes the armor class of fire warriors from heavy infantry mid to heavy infantry high, which is the same armor class as Terminators. So really, really big, strong upgrade in that sense. And then have this upgrade here, which increases the sight and firing range of your fire warriors even more. So if they weren't shooting far enough, you can even increase the range with this upgrade even more. This does not increase the damage, because the damage itself is really good with the first upgrade, but this only increases the range and sight range. So the range is the big part on that. The sight range you want to cover with different stuff. These are only your tech researches, but here you have now, if you have Hero Warrior enabled, all the different war gear in tier 1, in tier 2, tier 3 and even tier 4 for your commander. And your resource upgrades, I just want to show you here, they require tier 2, and the second tier requires nothing. So immediately as you have them in tier 2, you can then get the second tier upgrade as well. That's the turret. And last but not least, I will just show you, just so that I have shown you, these are the two turrets kind of you have available if you have hazard and booby traps available. There's one anti-infantry, one anti-vehicle turret, but the problem is it just stands somewhere. You don't get mines from it. The mines are survival exclusive, so I don't really know where this comes from. These models I think could have taken from Dark Crusade, because in Dark Crusade you could get on the campaign, if you have the forward base, you could get turrets for Tau as well, which are these basically, I think. Normally Tau could not build any turrets in Dark Crusade, and in Soulstorm as well in survival, in skirmish it could not. And I think for Soulstorm they cancelled the Tau turrets in the base. I think exchanged them for singular drones that are there, but only for the AI. But yeah, don't quote me on that one. Really weird interaction there. Okay, now tier strength. As you may notice, Tau in tier 1 isn't the strongest in the sense of a straight up fight. Tau is really good in tier 1 for harassment with the stealth suits, like an infiltrated unit. Decapping your stuff is really annoying with the Tau commander and the Vespids for harassment. All these three units can jump with the jetpack upgrade, and the Tau commander has a really long range, has this target acquired and the snare trap, so it's like really good terracing. The snare traps in particular are very good at defending. Croods are in tier 1 also good for harassment, but not for straight up fighting. They are also good for keeping enemy ranged units from firing, of course, because they are relatively fast, and they can also somewhat fight in melee, but not the greatest. Most importantly, their morale breaks relatively easily. And then Tau is really good at defense, not because they have turrets, but they have long-ranged fire warriors and snare traps. So this is the way Tau plays in T1. You defend your base, and maybe if you have the mic for it, harass the enemy. Don't overcommit in tier 1. Tau in tier 1 is more or less like, I want to survive to tier 2, because in tier 2 you get all the big toys. You get the first big upgrade for your fire warriors. You get the chassis for your fire warriors. You get new units like the pathfinders, which you really need because your fire warriors can't see as much. If you still want to play defensive, you get the broadside battle suits. If you want to have some short range or some mid-range buffer between for fire warriors and the enemy, you can get breachers, which are really nice. You can get Crowd Shaper to increase your Crewed capabilities if you go for Crewed and get the Pharaoh Leap. So you get like a whole bunch of stuff in tier 2, including like all these interesting vehicles. But the big downside for vehicles is that you are stuck at 8 vehicle cap, because you get +6 from your Path of Enlightenment and +2 from your vehicle beacon, and that's it. If you want to have more vehicle cap, you need to tech up. That's the problem of having your squad cap, your caps tied to your tech level. So this is a downside for Tower. So these vehicles will not win you the game on its own, how they can for Imperial Guard sometimes. They are only support for your infantry. Similar to, let's say, Sisters of Battle, where the vehicles will also not win you the game, but be really good support vehicles. Tier 3, depending on what you go, yeah, you can see here it's tier 3 actually, the commander. Before all the new units, I would say tier 3 is, how should I say, tier 3 still is better in Kauyon. You can see it because you get a lot of cool units for them now, but only a few units for Montcar. And you get also these very, I cannot overestimate it enough, very good upgrades for them. For your all units basically you already have. So this is why Kauyon mostly was used for the most time, because it increases the effectiveness of the units you have already fielded. But if you want to use Montcar, you need to get crisis suits, for example, to make use of them. So you need to buy a new unit, which costs you a lot more than getting upgrades for your already reinforced and upgraded units. And you see here still in tier 3, Kauyon holds very strong. You get the Crude Hounds, the Norlock Riders, even some Gwesa and these commander units, and this sniper drone dude. For Montcar, you only quote unquote get the crisis suits, which are really good, and this commander, which is also very good. But if you look further in tier 4, if you want to play even later, you see, oh, there's only one unit for Kauyon now. All the new shiny tanks and whatnot are only for Montcar. Even the battle suit here is better used in Montcar because you can get the upgrades for it. The only tier 4 unit that is better on Kauyon is the Gnarlock here, as let's say the shared unit, because it gets more HP with the increased HP upgrade here. But everything else in tier 4 is either Montcar exclusive or shines more with Montcar. Of course, the super heavies and titans you can get for both, as well as the Easter egg unit here that is really boss is for both, but you can see it gets very blue in tier 4. So just to reiterate, tier 1 weak-ish, very good at harassing and defense. Tier 2 getting online, can end games in early tier 2 really quickly, especially if you consider now the new unit, the Piranha, which can be quite a menace as a support for your fire warrior line, because it can also jump. It's relatively fast to get. You don't need a vehicle beacon to get a vehicle, which is always a good thing to have. Tier 3, you want to go Kauyon if you want to finish the game in tier 3, because you have a lot of cool units that can increase your fighting capabilities, as well as these really good upgrades. If you want to play late, then you want to go for Montcar. I myself, just on a personal opinion, I'm more of a Montcar guy, because I like big battle suits, I like big tanks, so that's why I generally prefer Montcar. On a pure strategic level, I would still recommend Kauyon because of the upgrades and the units you get earlier, because most games do not last to tier 4, but are ended in tier 2 at the latest, and sometimes tier 3. So in that in mind, I would still say, like in vanilla, it was like 89% you want to go Montcar. In Unification, I would say 75% Kauyon. Sorry, I put it the wrong way. In vanilla, it was 89% go Kauyon or you lose. In vanilla, in Unification, I'm just mixing it all up here. In Unification, I would say Kauyon is still the better choice, like 75% of the games. But if you have the feeling that a game goes late, Montcar will be better there. In vanilla, even in tier 4, Kauyon was better. So there's Kauyon in vanilla is the superior choice. In Unification, it still is, but yeah, Montcar got better in general as well. Oof. Now we will quickly jump over the units here, and most importantly, we will talk about the campaign units, what they offer you and what they do not offer you. You can get a crude shaper, which is not so special, but you can get a stealth suit squad here, which immediately starts with MP grenades, and also has these fusion guns, these anti-vehicle guns enabled. So these are more like 3 leaders, 3 chasseurs. Then you have Vespids, which are standard. Then you have Tau Firewall Chasseur team, which has a really long range and has plasma grenades enabled right away. And that's it. The rest I have talked already over. Yeah, and the rest aren't really special units in that sense. So, these are the Techtrees. Just wanted to show you one last thing here, that all the upgrades for the even for the Ghost Keel is blue, so it's Montcar only. Okay, with these Techtrees out of the way, we will now jump over to the build orders. And here we are on the build order document. As the usual, my Techtrees and build orders you can find in the Google Drive. Just a quick explanation, because some or most people don't get what I want to show here. On the top you have all the buildings from left to right, and under it you have the units and upgrades you want to get from these units, and then right from the units you have the special weapons or squad leaders you want to get, depending on if they are available or you want to get them or not. And I always finish my build orders with when I click tier 2 or when I start the tier 2 building in this particular sense. One last thing, this line here represents a, you could say, economy gap or whatever. All these units on this side you can get more or less from your starting resources. The rest you want to add in the order you prefer, you need to have in the game, if you have some listing posts secured. So listing posts, of course, are your main goal early on, because these are your economy. Okay, your standard build order is to get 2 stealth suits, and then another builder to get your barracks earlier, of course, 2 stealth suits into jetpacks. Then you get the barracks and 1 generator. From the barracks you get 1 fire warrior. You can also get the Tau commander earlier. I prefer to have a fire warrior team earlier, because it also can cap a point for me in my base, and then I can park it defensively. If you get the Tau commander earlier, you cannot cap stuff in your base, but you can go on the harassment duty earlier. Depending on the matchup, the flamer is a very good choice for a Tau commander, because it's a mid-ranged AoE attack. And depending on the matchup, that's why here's an or, you want to get either fire warriors or crudes, or even a mixture of both to defend your base. You also can and should get a turret, but don't get a turret like in the back line, behind your line somewhere where you build your generators. It is a good thing to build your generators and attack in the backside, but you want to build it close to a listening post in general, and you can upgrade the listening post. So the listening post will defend this location already. No need to get the turrets there. You can also get an offensive turret, which is not the greatest idea for the most part, because the health of these turrets are really low. So you can get a defensive turret like the standard defensive turret on Fata Morgana between your outside strategic point and the relic, for example. This is a really good spot, for example, for a turret. There are other maps where you have really good turret positions. So this just helps you to also secure fire warriors. Your fire warriors you get, if you like go for 3 fire warriors, you want to not put them at one point in your base, but you spread them out, because they're relatively slow, but they can have overlapping firing lines. And having a fire warrior somewhat near to your turret may seem overkill, but the turret can cover your fire warrior and the fire warrior can cover your turret. So more or less this is another fire warrior in a sense. Immobile fire warrior. And then you want to get to tier 2 and get all the good units I told you in the Techtrees and try to get on the offensive there. This is a build where your main goal is to harass the enemy, so mainly to keep the enemy in their base, so that it's like offense is the best defense in your mindset here, where you want to get self-suits and then quickly want to get a respite. For this you want to get the second builder building the power generator quick right away, so do not power build the barracks, because timing will not line up very well. And then you can get the Vespids and the Tau Commander to have like 2 jumping units which can directly annoy your opponent. Later on, you want to get more generators, of course, to get to tier 2, and you will most of the time have enough resources over to get 1 or 2 squads of fire warriors or recruits. In this build, I think fire warriors are better because you want to have something to defend your base. Harassment, you're already very well equipped. The third builder here is mainly because you want to have 2 builders building your Path of Enlightenment, and then want to have sometimes a third builder to, let's say, build a 4th generator, or want to repair or whatnot. So having a 3 builder and 2 builders busy on the tech is common. Then you have this melee all-in, I call it, because this is a crude build, and if you start off with crudes, you really want to skip the generators until you have crudes and Vespids to fight. And later on, if you add a turret, a generator, you can add a Tau commander as well. This build is mostly effective on smaller maps or even on bigger maps, so you can harass multiple points at once. On smaller maps, you can just bomb rush into the enemy base, decap points. This is one downside of the Vespids. They can really kill buildings easily, but they do not can decap. So this is a good synergy. The Vespids kill the buildings, the Crudes keep the different fighting units busy, and once the Vespids kill the buildings, one Crude quickly decaps a point and then continues on annoying enemy ranged squads. So the idea is to keep the enemy in their base, leaving your base alone, so you do not need a turret or anything, and then go tier 2. Then of course you can get a tier 2 rush. For this you get only stealth suits. You also delay the jump, because the jump costs you 250 power, and with 2 generators and a bit of income from them, you get 225 power, which you need to upgrade to tier 2. On your way to tier 2, you then get the jump ability. And why do I get the builder so early? Because I again have 2 builders busy on the Path of Enlightenment and are still in the process of getting up my listening post. So that's why I want to have a 3rd builder to get my listening posts up as well. Then this one is really interesting. I have seen it in replay in 5.9 and found it really interesting. It was GapPR, who has quite a lot of interesting build orders. And this is stealth suit spam. You would think, yeah, stealth suits in tier 1, they can't do really anything, do they? They can actually in numbers and with this damage upgrade on them. So the idea is you get a barracks, a generator, and only get the Tau commander. So you have something to defend your base a bit early on, or you harass your opponent, get stealth suits, get the upgrade, and then add even more stealth suits, and then of course the last builder, and then get on offensive with a lot of stealth suits. This works of course best on factions that lack good / early detection. Emperor's Children, Dark Elder in a sense. They only have the one use of this detection ability, and then their detection is really weak-ish. And you can also, which I recommend, try to build an offensive turret in an offensive position, defended by your invisible but shooting units. So an offensive turret feels very natural to this build order as well. And after you got some generators, you can go to tier 2 as well. And this one is one thing I came up with. This is probably not very optimal, but turret rush into fire warrior spam. The idea is to get a 2nd builder that you immediately walk over to the enemy base. The first one you have to start with builds the barracks, and then another builder will help you with the barracks and your listening post. And yeah, the 2nd builder, the one that you build, go to an offensive position and start to build a turret. And as you see, you do not get any generators. Getting a turret and a Tau commander is exactly 100 power you start with. This means that you want to skip or need to skip your jump pack, which is most of the time not really good, but yeah, in this build you need to. And then you get fire warriors and Tau commander later on, because the fire warriors will help you. You can park them next to your turret, like not like smack bang next to it, but like overlapping firing lines, which is what all Tau players will need to do and learn. So you have an, on let's say, Quest's Triumph is prime map for this shenanigans, because you have only one entrance to your base. And if you target down or nail down the enemy in his base, which has 3 points, but still, you you can mainly win the game because the enemy does not get any resources and you get the whole map. That's the idea behind it. And you can see here I would add more fire warriors to really have the enemy contained. What will this fail against is if the enemy detects that you're doing this shenanigans, tucks away in his base, upgrades the listening post, get relatively quickly tier 2 and comes out with vehicles because you have nothing to fight vehicles, early vehicles, because you are stuck. Even getting the map building listening post, so attack will be delayed quite a lot. Okay, these are the build orders, and as usual we will finish this guide with a replay. And finally it's a guide where I do not have to play myself, you can think of, and not that I do not like to play, but I want to show different people's build orders, and I can rate them and show off mistakes. Not only my mistakes, but other people's mistakes, what other people did good and did bad. I have a game for you of Rex versus Huntington. There was another game that I wanted to show, but it has a sync error, which was really sad. But yeah, this is a game I have for you, and I hope you enjoy it, and I will go over what is good, what is bad, as I do the cast. And here we are on the replay where you see Rex playing Tau Empire, getting Tau Barracks and a Plasma Generator right away, getting a second builder, 2 Stealth Suits, which is more or less standard. And we have on the other side of this very sandy map, we have Huntington playing one of his signature factions as well, the Imperial Guard, going for a very standard placed Imperial infantry command here, getting conscripts, getting guardsmen, getting another Techtrees. So also pretty standard on his part. We will focus, of course, on the Tau Empire here, getting 2 Stealth Suits and jetpacks. You will see these little... the jetpacks always finish, even if you go 3 Stealth Suits tend to finish before you capture your first point. So you want to get the nearest point, and then you can use shift click and jumping shenanigans to get your points really fast. You will see this unit jump over to the next point, hopefully, immediately as it takes. Oh, misplay. He shift clicked it without a jump. Does he the same with here, or is this shift click with the jump ability? Yeah, here we see it. So you shift click to jump it to the next point, and then shift click right to the point, so you immediately have it. And then you can, as long as it caps it, then shift click it to the next point. So really nice. And Rex likes to go for early Tau commander, because he likes to harass his opponent, even getting flamers here. Against Imperial Guard it is okay-ish. I probably wouldn't go for it. Flamer is good against Imperial Guard because they have low morale. You can think of that, and it's an additional weapon, so you don't lose any firepower, but it's quite expensive. Early on you want to get your listening post and everything. Yeah, but he does not go for fire arrows early, so he is mainly harassing, even deciding for your Stealth Suit not to go this point here, but to start to harass the opponent, which is a good choice. But Huntington was good, or should I say early, with his third placement, so this Stealth Suit will be spotted and dies. Here the Tau Commander did kill the Techtrees with the damage of the Flamer and his weapon and the target acquired ability, even before this listening post was built, which is quite the achievement if you consider that the Techtrees NGCers have commander armor and are in general quite capable in defending. We now have the first fire warrior on the field. Most people will stick it here where we normally build a turret for Tau, and yeah, this is also a good spot to have it here. Let's see where Rex put it, and the other position would be here in between these listening posts, similar to a turret. You can think of your fire warriors early on as mobile turrets. So this commander needs to go out, but he can, because he can just jump. Really nice. The fire warriors are a little exposed here. I wouldn't do it, to be honest. This is not the best position to have your fire warriors. Fire warriors, you can see the side range of the fire warriors is really low. You want to have your fire warriors tucked behind this one and have your traps here or here. Traps are a waste of resources against IG, as they have the Psyker. And one big misplay I want to point out here is reinforcing these fire warriors. I explained to you earlier why you want to get new squads instead of getting more units. Against IG it is kind of okay, but also kind of not, because you have the command squad, and if the command squad ties up one squad of fire warriors, they can do nothing. So you want to have 2, so at least one can fire. But I think Rex is now starting to get to tier 2. And now it's the question, can he stay in vision range of this turret and firing? So the Tau Fighters do outrange this turret. Here comes a guardsman and die immediately in this range fire. You see the range of the Tau Commander is really, really high. I think also higher than his own vision range as well, so which is kind of a Tau thingy. Little misplay on the stealth suits. Not capping anything, not in the middle, not on the sides. Which is something you want to get. Pulse of Enlightenment is being dropped a little too. On the front side I would have liked the tier and an upgraded listening post, for example. And here you see why you get another builder, because he would probably add another generator now. He goes for only 2 generators. In my build it's for the most part 3, but yeah, it depends on the game state if you want to or can afford these how should I say, can afford these generators or not. So getting on the offensive with your fire warriors, as you can see here in tier 1, isn't the greatest of choices, because if they need to run away, they get a lot of damage done, and these models again are very expensive. 70 requisition for every single model is quite a big investment. Gets now Croods, which is interesting, to tie down probably guardsmen. So you can see here he gets for a mixed approach. This stealth suit will not get a T-cap. Sad story indeed. Now we have some Crude, and he will add some Preachers, so at least we have some good old mixture of units here. We have advanced pulse rifle increases the damage and rate of fire warrior and stealth suit ranged weapons. Is this also true for fire warrior Preachers? I have no idea. There was a little lag going on from Yasu, which spectated this. And the stealth suit, this one finally got the point on the left. And now we have an attack. Is he getting the Chasui? He should get the Chasui. On the Preacher, very much indeed as well. A shield drone would also be very much, how should I say, recommended. And he gets also the Piranha. And a very defensive turret in a position I do not really like. I told you earlier why I do not like this, because it defends only a position that in generally could be defended by upgrading the listening post, which would be in turn give you also more resources. But we have fighting going on here. We have the Tau Commander getting some psychic blasts in the face, but we have Croods and the Preachers coming in to save the day. Even the Piranha here. The Piranha itself has only vehicle low armor, so it can be focused down, but you have also like this fire arrow standing next to it. The Croods and the Preachers. The Preachers needs to go a little closer in. The Chasui has quite a long range, but the other models do not have, and he goes for a full 3 Chasui build. But yeah, you need to have the Chasuis on the fire warriors as well. The damage on them is really nice. Also now add the fusion blaster to get this listening post killed easier as well. We have now some photon grenade spam, because you get 1 photon grenade for each of these Chasui here. So the damage is real. Still no Chasui for them, which is a little sad, but it's okay. The Croods here now on decapping duty, and yeah, you have these Piranhas. One gets stunned. You see the damage is being dealt even just by this building here. The problem is that it regenerates, so if it survives and can jump to the backline or move to the backline, it will regenerate health relatively quickly. The Tau Commander now added also the missile pods, missile launcher, which do quite a lot of damage, and knockback. The damage is mostly in anti-vehicle, but knockback is really nice. And we have the special weapon teams, which was a way to counter the Piranhas. They have relatively long-range melters, but now got focused down. And yeah, do they have? Yeah, they do have heavy stubbers. And do they have the priest attached? I think it was the command squad, but still. The idea was to get also long-ranged units for the Imperial Guard. I'm not really sure how to engage Imperial Guard here. He now gets a shield drone, which is something I would recommend. More Piranhas here, so it's a full-on tier 2 attack, which is something Tau can really do very well if they survived tier 1 relatively easily. But yeah, that's basically the game. It's now all south for Huntington here. You see the game goes a bit, but yeah, this more or less over now. You have more creatures, more piranhas. So yeah, tier 2 timing push you could think of. Some other RTS they would be called like this. Yeah, and Huntington does what most Imperial Guard players like to do, me included, and make it as difficult as possible for the enemy to finish the game. But yeah, as we see these piranhas and tower units keep on fighting, we will end the guide here. If I have forgot to tell you something, please note in the comment. If I gave wrong or incomplete information, please tell me as well. Yeah, other than that, you can always tell me if you liked it, if you didn't like it. And yeah, we have one Chimera squad fighting back, but I think this Fusion Blaster, yeah, they can jump. We will see this last push here, I think, and then we will end the guide here. So if you liked it, leave a comment. If you do not like it, also leave a comment and tell me what I could have done better. Do not just tell me, oh, you suck. Tell me why I suck so I can improve. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today. I hope you enjoyed it and see you in the next video. Bye bye.